We're all in place. It is now time for What's Hot. This is where we talk about the stories that have everybody talking.
And today we're joined by Klein from Boelter+Lincoln, plus Tracy Johnson is back with us. A Texas mother got a visit from police and CPS for letting her 6-year-old son play outside by himself at a nearby park.
That boy had stayed behind after his 8-year-old sister returned home with their dog. That boy about 150 yards away from his home. We have a new lens on camera 2 today, by the way. Hi, new lens on camera 2. How young is too young to play outside alone?
I mean, I remember being a kid and feeling like I could play out in my yard at all ages, but, you know, I don't have children in today's day and age, so whether it's appropriate for a 6-year-old to be playing out in the yard or not, I guess I feel a little odd speaking about that. But, you know, if the kid is in the front yard and being watched by the parents from the inside, I don't see what the issue is.
Well, I think this is really interesting because this was reported by a neighbor who was watching the child play outside. They presumably saw the whole thing go down. They knew who the parent was, and then they continued to call Child Protective Services, which I understand in the state of Texas they have different rules and laws, and they need to investigate further. But I think this was taking it too far, and it was a very unneighborly thing to do, especially because they could tell that the child was safe.
Well, and it's one thing if a child is playing down the street, you know, not under the watch of their parents or guardians, and you really have no idea what they're up to. But to be in a yard playing, doing what children are supposed to do outside, just seems a little. You're right, Tracy. Very unneighborly.
Well, but then again, I take a step back and I say I have a 4-year-old. You know, fast
forward.
4's
not 6.
4 is not 6. But when I think about a 6-year-old, and to your point earlier about, you know, you never know who's lurking, and especially they were 150 yards away, which is quite a long distance away. You never know what can happen. You just never know what can happen. So, you know, I think the neighbor should have just went up to the neighbor. Yeah. And why do you call Child Protective Services? There was obviously not neglect going on here, but
seems a little excessive. I agree.
We got to play outside as long as we were on the block.
Right.
Until either the streetlights came on or we heard my dad whistle, and that meant we had to come home.
Same thing for us too, and it just felt like, you
know, somehow we made it.
Yeah.
How did that happen? All
baffling.
Right. Coming up next, we reveal the viewer's choice topic of the day.
And Brian Goddard's back with us for a look at your forecast of the day.
Again, we're joined by Klein and Tracy Johnson. She is from the Commercial Association of Realtors. Viewer's choice topic today: Sears up at Bayshore will be closed by the end of the year. The city's Chamber of Commerce president says Sears has been a good tenant. It's now time for something new to take its place. Some viewers on Facebook say they want an IKEA, a Macy's, or a Farm and Fleet.
Farm and Fleet.
What store should replace Sears? I'm sad to see Sears go because just in the last couple of months, I bought a washer, a dryer, and a dishwasher from that Sears. It was great. Service was great. The people were nice.
Well, and I'm sure you can still get all that online.
But you can't get the people.
I know, and
they'll be at another Sears near you.
The unfortunate thing, though, is there's about 85 people who are losing their jobs here, but they'll hopefully displace them. And I think people were waiting for this to happen. The Sears lease was ending. I think people were waiting for this to happen. Sears has been there way before the Bayshore Town Center was even developed. So I think great things are in store. I'd love to see a DSW perhaps. You know, there's lots of great stores that I think could go in there that would fit the market.
I'm coming at this from a pure retail therapy perspective.
Okay.
I love the IKEA idea. I think we don't have one. We don't have one in Wisconsin as of yet. Now I question whether the size will be appropriate of the current space, but we could always build up.
Traffic at Bayshore's bad enough. I mean, you really want to inject that?
That's the other thing. But man, I love me some IKEA. Yeah. I also think you need a Sephora because us on the east side
there's an Ulta there.
Yeah, but it's not Sephora.
No,
but there's
not.
a Sephora at Mayfair, and it always seems like the stores that are Mayfair originally always seem to duplicate over at Bayshore Town Center. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibility. But take a look at the demographics. Take a look at the people surrounding the area too, and what's going to fit best for them. Because some of these smaller stores, you know, have already left.
Well, and what about breaking up that big building? I mean, do you really need another anchor tenant, or can you do the same thing with maybe a couple smaller stores? Who knows?
I think they do need an anchor tenant. Maybe a Target.
A Target? Like a mini
Target Express, yeah.
No, that is, you nailed it. We need a Target. I mean,
yes.
I have to drive either to the south side, I live in Whitefish Bay, I have to go to Grafton, or I've got to go down to the south side of Milwaukee for a Target. That would be perfect. Glendale, get on that.
All right, let's get to our lightning round. Should students and teachers be friends on Facebook? Some parents think it's a good idea, but others not so sure about this. What are your thoughts?
This is a really great area in the social media world, and I can see benefits and drawbacks to both sides. I think you really have to evaluate the teacher, the children, and the entire situation before you decide whether or not it's appropriate to create that digital relationship, because far too often we see really horrible things happen online that we obviously don't want to have happen to other children.
I don't think teachers and students should have a relationship with each other on social media. Do I think they should be able to text each other? I think if it's in the right context and it's about professional, if it's about schoolwork, then I think it's okay, because that's the way of the world, and that's what these young people know. I think that if we were all accountable to ourselves and that we had good behavior, maybe this would be a different story in terms of Facebook. But I just think there's too much liability, and I think we should be smart and own it and say, I don't think we should be friends with our teachers or our students on Facebook.
Professional boundaries. What happened to them?
Wow.
And texting your teacher, I don't think you should have your teacher's cell phone number. I think that goes beyond the professional boundary. If I can't ask you in class or I can't email you, I don't know if we need to have that relationship that goes beyond.
The only time a teacher's cell phone or phone number was used when I was a kid was when it was not a good thing.
I was like, you had a teacher who had a cell phone when you were a kid?
Yeah, we had time machines too back then. Hey,
a car phone,
the What's Hot discussion continues online. Find it at tmj4.com/hot. Happy Friday, everybody.